All right, guys, and with that, it's a wrap, said Tom as he snapped the final photo. Great, thanks for the photo shoot today, man. I'm sure the photos for our product ads will turn out great, said Kyle, who was one of Tom's clients. Gosh, it's almost midnight. What a long day it has been. Have a good rest, Tom, said Kyle's partner, Amber. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll let you guys know once I'm done editing the photos, said Tom as they parted ways that fateful night. As Tom was packing his photography gear, he looked around and said to himself, Okay, where am I going to get a cab in the middle of the business district on a weekend? It's like a ghost town here. Soon after Tom was done packing, he suddenly felt his stomach hurting. Oh, great, now I really need to use the washroom, said Tom to himself. At a distance, Tom saw a secluded mall filled with restaurants, but remembered how it only opens during the weekdays to serve the working customers in the business district area. Oh well, it's at least worth a try. I really hope the security guard lets me in the mall. I really need to use the washroom now. As Tom continued talking to himself, Tom hurried over to the mall and saw a security guard in his security post at the entrance of the mall. Hi, sir. I'm sorry, but I really need to use the washroom. It's really urgent. I know the mall is closed, but can you allow me to use the washroom? I'll make it quick, said Tom. Sure, but don't take too long. No one is allowed in on the weekends. Oh, and yeah, the one on the first floor is out of order. So you need to walk all the way to the end, take the escalator up and turn left. Then walk straight for a little bit and you'll see the washroom, said the security guard. Seeing how far the washroom was and how dark the second floor looked, Tom told himself, Oh great, I'm going to be in a horror movie, as he was already beginning to feel nervous about the walk there. Tom was really uncomfortable to go so far into the mall, but he knew he had no choice. It was only a matter of time before he could no longer control his bowels. As Tom walked into the mall and headed towards the escalator to go up to the dark second floor, Tom kept telling himself, Oh man, I really have to make this quick. Tom began having goosebumps as he started imagining what would suddenly appear in front of him. As Tom got off the escalator on the second floor and made his left turn, the only source of lights were coming from the first floor and the green exit sign near the washroom. Tom walked for a few meters before finally seeing the sign with an arrow that points to the left to enter the walkway leading to the washroom. Tom took a deep breath and walked forward. Where the heck are the lights? How am I going to see anything in the washroom if it's this dark? Said Tom to himself. As Tom finally set one foot into the washroom, his nerves were slightly calmed when the automated sensor lights were turned on. Tom rushed into a cubicle, and while still using the washroom, the lights suddenly were turned off. Knowing that the lights were automated sensors, Tom just waved his hands towards the ceiling and the lights came back on. Tom did it again when the lights went off after 2 more minutes. Lights were back on and turned off again 2 minutes later for the third time. This time, before Tom could even wave his hand to turn on the lights again, he heard an actual switch being turned on. The lights then came back on. Before Tom could think about who it was that turned on the lights, Tom could hear the switch being turned off again, then turned on again, and off again. As Tom was still not done in the washroom, he just quickly opened his cubicle door in darkness and said, "Who's there? Stop playing with the lights," said Tom, putting a brave front while trembling on the inside. Tom's movement made the lights come back on, and as expected, Tom saw no one there at the light switch near the entrance of the washroom. Tom closed his cubicle door again, and there were no more sounds of the light switch being played with anymore. Finally done, Tom stepped out of his cubicle to wash his hands. That was when he noticed that the cubicle beside him was closed, and from within the cubicle, it sounded like someone was pulling a piece of the toilet roll. Tom initially felt strange, as no one could possibly be in the toilet since the mall is closed. But Tom suddenly thought to himself, Oh, maybe it's the security guard who let me in just now. Just to confirm that it was indeed the security guard, Tom said, "Hey, sir, is that you?" "Of course it's me. Who else could it be?" replied the voice, which was clear to Tom that it was the security guard. Relieved now that he was not alone in the creepy mall, Tom said, "Just want to say thanks for letting me in just now. I don't know what would have happened if you didn't let me in. There's really no washroom in this entire ghost town." "Yeah, that's how things are in the business district on the weekends," replied the security guard while still in the cubicle. "Yeah, it's so quiet. I wonder how you're able to work alone like this," said Tom as he was washing his hands. Suddenly remembering how the light switch was turned on and off multiple times while Tom was inside his cubicle, Tom continued, "Oh yeah, did you see anyone play with the light switch just now?" asked Tom. All Tom heard after that was just giggling sounds coming from within the cubicle. Tom was partly confused at the reaction, while partly creeped out as well, seeing the situation he was in. His level of trust now that it was the security guard in the cubicle was lowered. Tom kept calm and said, "Hey, sir, why are you giggling to your—" Before Tom could finish his question, the security guard, who had let him in earlier, entered the washroom and said, "Hey, young man, what's taking you so long? You're done, right? Let's go," said the security guard while guiding Tom out of the washroom. Tom was still confused. As the two of them went down the escalator to the first floor, where it was much brighter, Tom asked the security guard, "Hold on, sir, I thought it was you in the cubicle." "Okay, now I'm freaked out. Who was that in the washroom with me? He kept playing with the lights as well." As they were now reaching the entrance of the mall, the security guard said, "Oh, that was just Mr. Andrews. He used to own one of the shops on the second floor." "Used to? Then why is he still here?" asked Tom, sounding confused. "Well, his business didn't do so well, and he went bankrupt. What made things worse was his wife didn't want to live the tough life with him, and she took the kids and left him," said the security guard. "Okay, I'm sorry that it happened to him, but still doesn't explain why he's still here," said Tom. After a brief silence, the security guard replied, "He hung himself in that exact cubicle. But don't worry, he brings no harm to others. I've worked here for years, and every so often I hear him in the washroom, either minding his own business or, at most, seeking attention from those who entered the washroom." Shocked at what he had just heard from the security guard, Tom stayed silent, not knowing what to say as they finally reached the mall's entrance. Still thinking about what had happened and what was told to him earlier, all Tom could say to the security guard was, "Well, okay, sir, it's late now. I shall get a cab." Tom walked away from the entrance of the mall and the security post and towards the street while waving goodbye to the security guard. Thankfully for Tom, a cab came by and stopped. "Okay, sir, we can go by the expressway, yeah?" said Tom as he entered the cab. "Sure, but may I ask, who are you talking to and waving to just now before you walked over to my cab?" said the cab driver. "Oh, to the security guard, of course. He's quite large. I'm sure you could have seen him even from quite a distance," said Tom with confidence. After a moment's silence, the cab driver then said, "What security guard are you referring to? All I saw was you talking to yourself and waving to thin air." "What do you mean?" said Tom, now with much less confidence in his voice than before. Tom then turned his head to look back at the mall's entrance where the security post was at, but saw no one there. The light from the post, which was on earlier, was off, with the shutter fully wound down. "And that's why they call this the weekday mall, because absolutely no one is here on the weekends. And I mean no one," But don't worry, you're not the first adrenaline-seeking explorer that I've picked up from this mall. They usually get the experience that they came for, and sometimes even more," said the cab driver. Sat there stunned, Tom just couldn't believe what he had experienced earlier. Did Tom really come in contact with the ghost of the shop owner and the security guard? 2 ghosts in one night? Or was Tom set up and pranked by 2 individuals who wanted to have fun and give someone a good scare? On that quiet Saturday night at the Weekday Mall.